Welcome to a new episode of the Ragman Show. This is your host, Elvin Ames, the Ragman himself, on our Rags to Riches show. Today we're discussing cancel culture. I got my main man, Mike. I got Timmy, and I got Chris on. Introduce yourself to the people, guys.
Who's going first?
Ladies first.
Ladies first.
Oh, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Timmy from Serbia. I'm working with Alvin with Smart Realty, and we are making the Rags to Riches shows every Friday. So just subscribe to our videos, and you can follow us.
All right, Chris. Oh, you're mute, Chris. Let's go to Mike.
Good evening, everybody. Mike Teague. I'm an internet entrepreneur, also do performance training, a spiritual leader. And it's always good to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to discuss the different topics, including cancel culture tonight.
All right, Chris. Chris still on mute. We got to check your voice there, Chris. All right. But, hey, Chris is my main man from Cyprus. Oh, you got it on yet? All right. Okay. All right, it's all good. So he's getting that fixed, and we're going to start the show. So, Timmy, why don't you read one of the headlines? Hopefully you got some pulled up. Let's start with, what's been on the news right now. If you have any headlines on Meghan and what's going on with her and piersmorgan, just read off one of those headlines there. And if you could bring it up on the screen, I'll pull it up and show it to the people. Yeah, just share your screen and I'll show it to the people. So, Mike, while we are prepared for this, I know while Timmy is looking for the story, let's start off with what's going on with the royalty. Meghan Markle and the prince did a interview with Oprah recently, where some real disturbing allegations came out against the royalty. So, what are your thoughts on what happened? And we had two incidents of cancel culture. Basically, we have people on the right trying to cancel Meghan, and then we have piersmorgan and people on the left trying to cancel him. In fact, he canceled himself.
He canceled
off his show. So what are your thoughts on this whole subject?
So W.E.B. Du Bois, I think it was the Souls of Black Folks, said that he said in the 20th century, the problem within the 20th century was the color line. Now that we're in the 21st century, the problem is still the color line. I think even globally, race is still an issue. And for the crown, it seems, given what both Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have said, that race is still an issue within the family. It seemed like, I didn't watch the whole interview. I think I watched about an hour to 2 hours. It seemed like Meghan Markle was saying that she was the victim of, within the family, benign neglect. Like, yeah, you're here, you married Prince Harry, we're not going to help you adjust to this new role, which is like going from a private setting to a public setting. And the tabloids, they seem to do two things. One, rip her apart from a racial perspective, and then all outright lied on her. So it's something that I think the family, the royal family, has to reconcile and reckon with, and they're beginning to come out with comments. And I think the tabloids ultimately need to be held accountable if what they're reporting was not true.
Now, before we go, because I know Chris may have a different perspective on this, me and we were talking about this earlier. Timmy, if you don't mind reading off the headlines, and I'm going to bring the story up now. All right.
Okay.
Should be showing. Okay.
So, can you see my screen?
You're good to go.
Okay. Meghan and Harry interview. Palestine taking race issue very seriously. And here is a picture with Oprah.
now I know the Queen weighed in, and basically what the Queen weighed in really didn't suffice. Now, Chris, how's your sound doing, Chris?
I think it's fine now, right?
Okay, good. Chris had another, Chris, let me hear your point of view on what your whole concerns are with this issue, the issue with Meghan. I know you had a different point of view, so let's hear your thoughts on the subject.
Yeah. When you announced the today's subject, we had a brief discussion, right? And okay, maybe we need to separate the fact, because we also had a discussion about the royal family as a institution, but I think that's beside the point, right? Because that's beside the point. We don't really know the truth. I think the truth is somewhere in between as well, because the Queen answered that about the racial comment. It would be good to know the details of it. Tabloid, probably tabloid is guilty anyway, because they always hunt the royals.
But I know you were kind of defending the royalty, and what made you want to defend them, against what basically you were telling me, basically to it's kind of the dirty laundry that aired out there, and I get that point, and I we being Americans, we don't really care about them, right? Like, we think it's a bunch of nonsense. So I have a different perspective that you may have, being from Cyprus, and different beliefs and your different culture. For us in America, they're laughing stock to us. But of course, the history, right? How we separated, from Great Britain, and so, what did you have? What was your perspective again on her coming out? Like, you felt like she shouldn't have said anything.
Well, we more or less know what she said, that she was left alone. She felt suicidal, and there was racism. Plus, the tabloid has also a big share of the problem. The side of the Queen said, in defense to the Queen, she said, we gave her a team of our best employees. She gave her an Australian girl or woman, I don't know, that's one of her best helpers, and she eventually quit.
Now, you were saying that.
So, okay, there is. So where's the? Meghan says she Googled to see the national anthem of Britain to find it. I mean, the thing is, let me say one thing about because we're escaping maybe the subject about cancel culture, because if the royal institution is in Britain, and I think the majority, maybe a small majority in Britain wants the Queen, right? So who are you to want to say they're useless and let's get rid of them?
Well, so let me stop you there before I go back to Mike, because he might itching to jump in. Timmy, as a female, how did you feel about the interview, the revelation that basically they're telling her child, is not basically wanted? I tend to believe her, but how, as a female, do you side with Meghan? Do you side with the royalty? How do you come across? How do you feel about that whole situation? Should Meghan be canceled, or should Piers Morgan canceled himself? But what are your thoughts on the whole situation?
And like, for a mother, it's like a terrible feeling, right? I'm also a mother, and like your child is like part of you, and like that, it's like really hurt you. So I think it was like a really terrible feeling for Meghan to hear that and to feel also that.
All right, now
the child is also, he was asking about like like the color, right? So I think it's
Right.
not important. Well,
Right. So thank
maybe
you for that.
I can play it if you want me to this part on the
Yeah.
YouTube.
No, because Mike got a hard stop, so I want to get Mike back in. So, Mike, based on what you heard, these different perspectives, I want to give you the final word on this before we jump to the next person that got canceled, which is Dr. Seuss. I want to talk about. So, what's your what, based on these perspectives, let's close up Meghan Markle before we jump to the next one.
So what I'm going to do is in terms of knowing what the topic is for today, kind of walk the line, right? If Meghan, and there's a bit of a parallel between Princess Diana, rest in heaven, as Harry brought it up, and Meghan Markle.
Mm-hmm.
Let's shift it a bit. Would this have been an issue if Meghan Markle were white? I contend no. So
Mm-hmm.
why has it become an issue? Because she's biracial. Now, let's look at biracial. In American history, one drop of African American blood made one African American from a constitutional standpoint and a cultural standpoint. So I think we're kind of dancing around the elephant in the room. We're kind of touching on it and getting off of it. Yeah. I think this is fundamentally about Meghan's race, not her appropriateness to be queen, not her heritage, or well, I won't say heritage, her pedigree. It's really about her race, right? And so I think that's the issue. And I think because she brought the racial issue screaming to the forefront of the conversation, the backlash, not so much from the crown, because their words have been very measured, right? But from the tabloids, and then to a certain extent by British culture, she's being punished for crying out in pain because in her mind, she's experienced racism. I think that's the issue. Now, I'm walking the line because we can talk about this on air, but now let's put this in the business standpoint. Now it's about what is politically correct, right? Versus what is not. And then how are we punished or not punished by what we may say that may be deemed to be politically incorrect.
Right, because if you really think about it, Prince Catherine, Prince William's wife, she didn't have that problem. So how comes Meghan has that problem? So anyway, enough of that. Let's move on. Let's talk about my favorite character, Dr. Seuss, and he's being canceled. Timmy, if you could look for a quick article on Dr. Seuss. Do you have anything pulled up right now? If not, we're going to jump into it and come back to you. So, look, Dr. Seuss, what's going on here, man? I grew up on those books. Now we want to get rid of Dr. Seuss. So Chris, I'll let you weigh in because I'm not sure if everybody else is up on Dr. Seuss. That's like an American thing. So what's going on with Dr. Seuss? Chris or Mike?
Hey, I'm Googling it right now. I know it was associated with the Republican Party. I'm just Googling it right now, man.
So basically, in a nutshell, Timmy, you got the story up on Dr. Seuss? Let's read it. Why they canceled Dr. Seuss. Yeah,
in a nutshell, 6 of his books have been canceled.
Mm-hmm.
Basically because of racism mostly, right? Because of portraying some figures. I think one was an Eskimo with a spear. So it's
Chinese. What was the Chinese?
Another was Chinese.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I got it.
Yeah, look, some of them they do go all out, but then we're talking about a cat here or whatever Dr. Seuss was.
Yeah, it's tough for sure. It's something even you can forgive for the 50 years ago, but it's good to think, like for us to think about making joke. It's stereotyping, for example. Right, stereotyping when you say this person, and this kind of true. So it's funny. I don't know how we can face this, but it's good to consider that what you've shown is maybe biased or whatever. It's hard to say.
So I grew up on Dr. Seuss. Interestingly enough, I was born in 1964. I I grew up on Dr. Seuss, green eggs and ham, I remember, right? So I just looked at this article. I think we have to accept the fact that society has changed. Society has evolved. One can argue on the one hand that we're segmented into a lot of different tribes, if you will, no racial reference intended, and that American culture and global culture is not homogeneous, right? There are many different types of people, belief systems, ideologies, and what I think about this in such a way that we've got to be sensitive to all different cultures. Now, there are some who actually make their living on controversy. I think, if I understand the topic of the show is how this impacts business. I think if we're going to serve within our niche, our customers, we have to be sensitive to their particulars. And Elvin, do I have to give a quick case in point? Do I have time to do that?
Sure, you got time. Yeah.
So 6:30, and then I thought about this driving home. 6:30 this morning, I had a sales consulting conversation with a consultant from Southeast Asia who happened to be from Pakistan. Now, if I said Indian, that's not necessarily incorrect. The most proper way to describe his nationality is Southeast Asian, because I'm planning a business venture regarding phone sales training to the Southeast Asian web developing and digital marketing community. Now, why do I say that? Because in this day and age, we've got to be very sensitive to people's particulars and how they want to be described. And I think if we're shock jocks like Howard Stern, he's made his living on controversy. However, if we want to do business in the global community, then I think we have to be very acutely aware of, and then embrace and be sensitive to people's particulars. So Dr. Seuss now has images which, as society has evolved, people can legitimately say are racist. When I was 5, I didn't know about that. It was green eggs and ham. and I like the rhymes within the book. So
absolutely. Well, anybody has anything else to weigh in, or?
No.
All right. So let's do this then. Let's jump over to Lincoln, right? Pull that, share that screen. Let's get Lincoln, Timmy. We can jump straight into Lincoln because I think Mike eloquently spoke about Dr. Seuss. So let's go over to Lincoln now. Lincoln was another person that they try to cancel now. I'm going to let you read the article first, Timmy. Let me share it.
Okay.
All right. So there you go.
All right. Letters to the editor. Cancel culture goes too far, targeting Abraham Lincoln.
All right. What else they got to it? Let's read a paragraph.
To the editor, I change a bit whenever I read articles like Cancel Abraham Lincoln, San Francisco with the president's legacy. People like in their own time and place, not in some unknown future. There are no reset or delete buttons. Neither the participants nor the events for which they are known can be erased. They are part of history. They are part of our collective conscience.
So what's the reason they canceled Abraham Lincoln? Does the article say why?
I think it was some events that happened that were, I don't know how much influence he had, like with the native Indians and so on. So yeah, I think, I mean, there was some kind of issues, but can it cancel a whole contribution of Abraham Lincoln? I don't know.
I mean, Abraham, he freed the slaves, you know. It might,
So I'm just weighing in, thank goodness for the internet, right? So here's a December 20th article about canceling Abraham Lincoln. Ironically, the indictment against Lincoln emphasizes not his alleged failure to recognize that, quote, Black Lives Matter, but his treatment of Native Americans during the Civil War. After 1862 Sioux uprising in Minnesota, caused by white encroachment on Dakota lands, a military tribunal sentenced 333 warriors to death. Lincoln personally reviewed the sentences, commuting the sentences of 265, but permitting 38 to be hanged.
Yeah.
So I think, Chris, to your point, that that's probably why.
Mm-hmm. But what's tough is, look, you know, all right, so we gotta, you know, this is 2021, right? Where everything is relatively peaceful, other than, of course, we're going through a pandemic. But if you go back that far, it's hard to, you know, put yourself in that time period and then to say, okay, everything needs to be canceled because, you know, what he did back then. And I'm not saying that it was right, you know, I'm just saying that you throw paint on his face, you know, like they did in the picture, you know, throw paint on the statue. I think there's a point where we take it too far. And this is a very good conversation to have because, you know, the left thinks they're right, the right think they're right, but the truth is always somewhere in the middle. You know, Timmy, Chris, or Mike, you got anything else to weigh in on that?
So, hey, I always ask this, Elvin, and I enjoy being on the show. Am I dominating the conversation? Because I could definitely fall back.
No, you're good.
All right,
I think this is American type of, you know, so.
So here's the thing, and Elvin, you're a genius with these topics, and I like to give very, very real examples from business, because as I read the topic, you're kind of angling it for business. So I'm in the branding phase of an ebook that I'm launching, and I'm not saying that to sell it right now. I'm saying it as context, and I'm doing a lot of outreach on Instagram. I have a whole creatives team that are making my graphics. I'm doing the content. So I had a guy, and I try to thank everyone who follows me on Instagram and Facebook. So I went to this guy's profile to thank him for following me. He's a Trump supporter. Now, beyond me saying this, it's all I'll say about it. I'm not a Trump supporter. And here's the piece, right? Cancel culture, political sensitivity. I honestly hesitated and said, now, do I want to thank this guy? Because his political beliefs are not consistent with mine. However, I said, Mike, you're an entrepreneur first. So guess what I did? I thanked him for him following me. And yeah. Elvin, I think in terms of what I've read about the topic that you sent to me, we got to separate, in my opinion, business from politics. In the midst of all the opinions that are swirling around in America and in the world, what are we first and foremost? Barring someone whose ethics violate our personal morality, that's a different story. Yeah. Is someone who I can serve and someone who can patronize my business. So I put me not being a Trump supporter, and beyond that, I'm not going to even talk about my political affiliation because ultimately it's not important. That was a watershed moment for me that said, Mike, what are you going to put first? Yeah,
and we all humans, you know, like we got difference of opinion. That's what made the world beautiful. So I want to get on to the last one now. Pepe Le Pew. Let me pull up the article. Timmy, go ahead and let's hear what's going on with Pepe Le Pew.
Okay. Space Jam 2, How Cancel Culture Came for Pepe Le Pew, Speedy Gonzales and Looney Tunes. Much of the discussion around nostalgia bait sequel Space Jam 2 has fixated heavily on cancel culture and adds to the film that potentially took place out of shifting public attitudes. Let's take a look at Pepe Le Pew. Pepe is one of those Looney Tunes characters who is locked in an endless pursuit like Coyote or Sylvester the Cat. Unlike those two, Pepe doesn't want to eat his prey. He wants to have sex with her. The joke being that he is a smelly, narcissistic buffoon who doesn't understand the Penelope Pussycat despises him.
Okay, so they want to cancel Pepe Le Pew because he's sexually aggressive to another cat. All right, guys, are we getting ridiculous here or what?
Hey,
I mean, What's
I
going
got
on?
locked
I want to hear the woman's perspective on this because I could be wrong. But again, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I have to say. And again, I remember Looney Tunes from when I was a kid. To me, it's a cartoon. I don't know what else to say about it.
Well,
Hey, I got to log off, Elvin. Hey, everybody, have a good night.
All right, Mike.
Thank you.
have a good night.
Thank
So,
you.
Timmy, let's hear you from a female perspective. What's going on with Pepe Le Pew and, how do you feel about that?
That character, honestly.
But how do you feel like, I mean, you think he's sexually aggressive towards the female? I don't want to make fun of it. Hey, don't come after me with pitchforks. I'm just talking about the cartoon character. Chris, what do you think of Pepe Le Pew? Do you think he was too?
Yeah, I also grew up with Looney Tunes, right? I remember him. But it's not about being offensive. I think that's one issue is not about being offensive to be cancelled. It's about the power of example. And I as I grew up, I thought, okay, Looney Tunes, right? It's like Tom and Jerry, or I don't know, Tom and Jerry, is it, all these heroes always like hunted one and the other, and there was like a lot of pain, right? Like hit with a hammer, accidents, and so on, right?
So the violence is okay. The violence is okay, but the love is wrong, right?
Correct. Yeah, I mean, that's one thing. And then one of my favorites was Roadrunner being hunted by the coyote. The bird being hunted by the wolf thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's so different. Like, so the bad guy, because it's kind of a bad guy, the coyote shouldn't eat, shouldn't hunt in real life. I mean, it's another, and so I think it's what it can make kids do in the future. And like, as we grow up, what about the film violence? Is it okay? Like, the action stuff and I don't know, is violence okay? I don't know. So
anyway, Timmy, I'm gonna let you close this one out. So, what are your thoughts? Give me your honest to goodness thoughts on the whole Pepe Le Pew situation, where he's an aggressive cat, he's chasing another female cat. What are your thoughts on the whole situation?
You also have such thing in life, so kids need to learn everything.
I mean, do you think this will teach boys to be sexually aggressive to females? Like, what
No,
are you really?
don't.
Yeah, I mean, you know what?
If I haven't read that, I wouldn't think about something like that, right?
Yeah. You know what this whole cancel culture reminds me of? To me, it's like a person. It's like, instead of having dialogue with a person you don't agree with, it's basically saying, let's completely. There's no nuance, right? There's no explaining to, like, you want to just cancel a cartoon character. There's no explaining to the fact that, okay, maybe kids, this is just a cartoon. It's not real. And I think the kids would understand it's not real. I don't think that kids are like watching the cartoon and thinking, oh, I gotta go sexually advance a young girl. I just don't see that. I mean, I watched, so I think that overall for business, this is not a good thing. As society at large, it's not a good thing. Because what happens is, if you keep shutting out people you don't agree with, those people could get radicalized. And ultimately, this could be, a slippery slide down a steep slope that you can't recover from. So I do not agree with cancel culture. I'll give everybody a last perspective before we close out. So is cancel culture a good thing? Yes or no? Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I give it a thumbs down.
No.
All right, no. All right, so there you have it. Right, Mike had to bounce, but I think he's a thumbs down as well. I think Mike likes to hear a debate, and it doesn't. Cancel culture doesn't allow for debate. That means it shuts off basically all intelligent conversation, and you can't. I mean, if you don't disagree, how you gonna learn, right? Can't agree with everything. If everybody agrees with you, how are you gonna see another perspective? Chris, and then Timmy, I'll let you close out. Chris, any final thoughts?
Yeah, what I can say is that definitely cancel culture. You cannot cancel culture, but need to be thoughtful of the other person's view. And maybe take some elements of why they want to cancel. I mean, they shouldn't want to cancel something, but you should, from discussion, accept something, yeah, and figure out. I mean, if you really disagree or not.
And Timmy, any final thoughts?
Yeah, and this also depends like whose thought it is, right? Maybe like one or two person, like for example, started to write some articles about something, or like a lot of people like agrees about the same thing, right? I mean, those cartoons was, I'm not sure how many years ago, right? Nobody had anything against the characters in the cartoons, and like they are starting to writing now, right?
Yeah. So so timing is
and also there was like some books, like Hungarian books for children, which is like not allowed now to read to children.
Yeah. And well, why were those canceled?
Because they are it can be like aggressive or things like that. But a lot of kids like grow up on those books, right?
Yeah. Well, look, with all the video games and the blood and gore, the violence on the TV that we watch, look, I love rap music. I rap myself out when I was a kid. All of the, I mean, it doesn't mean I'm going to go out there and do something crazy. For goodness sake, I was in the Marines, infantry. So I'm a 5-time rifleman, right? So nothing but violence that I grew up with as a Marine. Go ahead.
Look at the video games, what children are playing, right?
Yeah.
I think it's even worse. So,
so we're selecting what to dismiss. Anyway, so guys, good conversation. Let's wrap it up. We call it a night. This has been Cancel Culture. Is it all rubbish, or are they taking out the garbage? Today, unfortunately, everybody kind of agree it may be all rubbish. So everybody have a good night, and I'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, that's all, folks.
Thank
as
you.
the cartoons say.
All right, guys.